This is Steve, the Cookout Coach, and you're listening to the BBQ Central Show.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
And welcome to the really big BBQ Central show. This is the show that talks about all things important to the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originates from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, a.k.a. Bomb City, USA, and more importantly, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening's live fire fun and survival show. If you want to jump in on the show tonight, here's how you do it.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com or on the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show or anything that is corresponding to it can be found at the main website, which ironically is thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you get the newsletter coming up in about 12 minutes from now. The longest running sponsor of the show, a championship pitmaster, points away from winning the Jack Daniel's World Championship a number of years ago. He's brought a number of great products to market here over the past number of years. And friend of mine, we welcome back finally Bob Trudnak to the show from the BBQ Guru. Looking forward to catching up with Bob. It's going to be a great conversation. Then at 35 past the hour, it is the fourth Tuesday of a month, and in the first hour, that can only mean a visit from none other than grizzled veteran of the barbecue journalist world, Derrick Riches. Notwithstanding that, in the second hour, because it is the fourth Tuesday, and in the second hour, you know what that means? At least 2 and potentially a full panel of 3 embedded correspondents will be joining the show. And we have plenty to talk about with all of these folks. So don't think for one second that this is going to be some kind of cockamamie mail-it-in show. No, nothing like that. As I try and buy time to send Derrick his link, because I don't know if I sent it to him or not. That's the wrong link. I don't want to send that link. I want to send this link to Derrick. There we go. And then we can have a visit with Derrick a little bit later on here in the first hour. So that's how it lines up. Bob Trudnak shortly, Derrick Riches after him, embedded correspondence taking the balance of the second hour. We're looking forward to that. Don't forget, you can follow me socially. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at BBQ Central Show. Snapchat, at BBQ Central. For a live video feed of the show, you can go to the following websites, Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show. You can also find one over at YouTube /RD Rempe. You can also get an ad-free podcast feed of the show. If you're not a live taker-inner, you can go to 2 different places to try that out. You can become a patron over at the show Patreon page, which is patreon.com/BBQ Central Show. Or if you subscribe through Apple Podcasts, you can do it directly within that app if you feel the need. If not, don't worry about it. Just do it as normal. By the way, if you pay attention in the Apple Podcast feed, even if you didn't subscribe to the ad-free, on accident in the second hour for a while on Thursday, you got a free look of what it's like to have an ad-free show. My mistake, yo, brother. So if you ever wondered if you were one of those lucky few. As I was listening to the show back on Apple Podcast, I was like, uh-oh. So at some point later, last Thursday, I was able to fix it and update the feed. You won't get that experience now, but if you get it in the morning, first thing Thursday, you got a sneak peek, an unrealized sneak peek. So there you go. Before we get to listener feedback from past shows, let me thank the folks over at a podcast called Real Food, Real People. I was a guest of theirs last night, and while I am a great guest, it's not something that typically happens where I'm a guest on somebody else's show, which is a shame, but I was very happy to have been asked to go on their show. We talked a bit about the history of Barbecue Central. We talked about different styles of cookers and wood types and much more. I'm not sure exactly when the show will be released because I have post-production to do and all this sort because it is a traditional podcast, but I'll post a link on social when it does. I'm also reaching out to them to see once the show is finished if they might send me a copy, and I would post it in my show feed as well as a bonus episode of sorts, so stay tuned for that. Also, want to mention this. I don't know if she's watching, praying to the Lord and baby Jesus that she is, but we delivered kid number 2 to college at Kent State University this past weekend. Oh, my Lord. There was a moment in time when I was like, will they ever get out of the house? And now they are fleeing out of the house. Blink once, and they're gone. So she's only a couple days in. If you have any kids or cousins or you know anybody that goes to Kent and you're looking for a really cool kid to hang out with, drop me a line, and I'll put you in contact with a beauty, a smarty pants, quick as a wit. So we wish her good luck this year at Kent State University, the hallowed halls of Kent State in beautiful Portage County, Ohio. Some listener feedback from the shows here over the last few weeks. Pete in St. Louis writes in, Greg, thank you, and thanks to Rusty for the last segment last week about getting a barbecue vending business together. After hearing what he has to endure, I have decided that's just something I'm going to continue to do privately for some family friends and some of my own friends, coworkers. That seems to be the best way to go at this time for me. Rusty's info was eye-opening, to say the least. I look forward to hearing his progress over the rest of the year. Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Rusty. Regards, Pete. Pete, thank you very much for writing in. I'm sure Rusty thanks you as well. He'll probably thank you in the second hour because he'll be part of the embedded correspondence segment, of course. I agree. I thought Rusty's information was brutally honest. His candor was refreshing. And as we come to find out, getting into the barbecue catering business, whether it's a food truck, whether it's a trailer, whether you're doing traditional catering where you deliver a whole bunch of stuff to somebody else's location, there's a lot to consider there. There's a lot of things you need to get done. There's a lot of things you do to get legal, and they change from county to county and state to state. So even though Rusty was sharing what was going on that was unique to him, and I believe he did a good job of pointing that out, if you're doing it somewhere else in this great land of ours, you got to make sure that you're touching base with your proper health code professionals. Fire department, as we learned last week, that can be a big deal. So plenty of things you want to look at. But if that's your passion, just helping you lessen the learning curve, if you will. So again, Rusty did a great segment. Go back and listen to last week's second hour, and that would be the 35 past the hour segment if you missed it. Pat in New York writing, the family-friendly tone that Susie sets for Hey Grill Hey is the same we try to set for our show. Real food, real people. Good old-fashioned values and a safe place to play. Great show. Regards, Pat and Doug. There they are, showing up in the show feedback. I was just guesting on their show, as I had mentioned a few seconds ago. Dennis in Colorado. Greg, wow. Oh, my God, wow. Peace and love. Peace and love.
Peace and
to
love.
Meathead. But Jackie Taylor's interview a few weeks ago blew him out of the water. Great interview, Greg. I love hearing her. I would love hearing her again, and we'll check out the podcast for sure. But now that we know she loves barbecue, I'd love to hear more about those times and what they cooked and ate. Regards, Dennis. Dennis, always appreciate your feedback here on the show. No doubt about it. Connie in Florida from a few weeks back. Greg, listening to the show, and I can't believe that you did not.
We'll do it live.
No.
Andrew, you are not the father.
That you did not win American Idol Barbecue Central Show's second season. It's heartbreaking, and now I am truly wondering if the voting is on par or if something else is going on. Look, Connie, you said it before, and I will say it again. There are no shenanigans going on here. We don't run that kind of a show. I counted every single last vote. And what can I tell you? Didn't happen. For me this year. But next year, I'm already putting songs in the can that I can sing well. I'm going to have a run, perhaps the likes we've never seen. Believe it or not. Bob Trudnak will be joining me here shortly. While he loads in, let me talk to you quickly about Big Poppa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue. A curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies will get you on the path to better barbecue results in no time. Everything at BigPoppaSmokers.com has been Pitmaster approved by Sterling Big Poppa Ball himself. From the award-winning rubs and sauces to American-made grills and smokers, Big Poppa's has everything you need to be a better outdoor cook. Whether you're a backyard fanatic or a competition pro, Big Poppa Smokers has something for you, like championship rubs and seasonings, popular flavors like Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, all proven winners on the competition circuit. Big Poppa's offers 13 perfectly balanced flavors that will transform ordinary meals into extraordinary. They also own Granny's barbecue sauce, so if you're looking for a new go-to sauce that's a little bit different than from what's out there currently, or you're tired of the existing selection, give Granny's barbecue sauce a try. And aside from the sauces and rubs, they're selling cookers. We know that. That's right. You're looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use? Check out that Mac 2-star General Pellet Cooker. Not a fan of pellet smokers? Dandy. Check out that Old Hickory Ace BP, the only charcoal smoker that Big Poppa trusts on his competition trailer. If you're a backyard barbecue enthusiast looking for a durable and versatile grill, then call them and pick their brains and see which ones they would recommend. It's a toll-free call, 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727, or shop their website at bigpoppasmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA smokers.com. All right, we'll search for Bob Trudnak from the BBQ Guru, and we'll be back right after this. Stick around.
You're listening to the #1 most downloaded barbecue and grilling podcast anywhere. The BBQ Central Show. Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by the BBQ Guru, however, creators of automatic temperature control technology, sellers of ceramic cookers with built-in power draft fans, accessories to make your barbecue and grilling life easier. Visit bbqguru.com for more information, or, of course, call 800-288-GURU. The BBQ Guru continuing to be a breakthrough in barbecue technology. On the heels of that, my first guest tonight, a highly accomplished pitmaster, businessman, photographer, also happens to be the longest-running sponsor of this show. If you have a ceramic cooker or a bullet cooker or really any kind of cooker, you most likely have one of these units. Let's go ahead and race to the hotline and welcome back friend of the show from the BBQ Guru, Bob Trudnak. Hey, Bob.
Hey, what's going on, Greg?
I'm very excited to have you back, Bob. Lots to catch up with. So let's start with some BBQ Guru business stuff first. As we all know, last year and coming into this year, was a learning experience for many of us, both personally and professionally. From a business standpoint, and I guess a cooking standpoint, how did the BBQ Guru fare through those initial times last year? And how do you overcome those challenges that we really never faced before?
Yeah. I mean, it was tough for everybody. And it was a struggle for us. There were things that we had to do, changes we had to make to get through 2020. It was very difficult. But, we have a good management team. We have a great group of people working for us. And, it's amazing how we all pulled together and made this happen, made the adjustments that needed to happen, got product out the door when we could get product out the door. It was just, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of, how do we make the changes we need to make to stay successful? But we did it, so we got through it, and things are looking good, and we're heading up.
As I talk to some of the other captains of industry here in the live fire industry, and whether that's folks in your particular part of the industry, like the tech and that kind of stuff, or even the food folks, to a person, they've said, what we've realized is this: even as we come out into whatever normal is going to look like, we're going to have to operate with some type of either pandemic contingency plan to fall back on, or we're just going to operate in some form or fashion in a pandemic environment. So I'm wondering how that looks for you guys as things start to normalize.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have, given our employees the option to, come in to work in the offices or work from home. We've adjusted workplaces. We have, listened to our employees and, gotten feedback from them on how to make adjustments to help them through it. There's just been a lot of challenges with components and parts and timelines and things like that. So, we're just getting through it the best we can. We're listening to our people. We're listening to our customers, and, just making the adjustments that we need to make to get through. But overall, it's been a very good transition, and, things are good. Okay. They're pretty good.
What is inventory like for you guys at this point? I mean, I'm sure you're familiar. During the day, I'm selling Peterbilt trucks, and it is just an absolute nightmare to get trucks off the line. It's not a problem finding work, believe it or not. If we could build trucks completely, we could possibly build 300 Class 8 trucks a day, if you can believe it or not, with all shifts running 7 days a week. But we can't get anything to finish the trucks. So I'm wondering how that affects you as well.
Well, there's no secret that components right now
it's bad
are an issue, right? So things that you would normally get in 6 to 8 weeks, you're getting in 32 weeks, 34 weeks. So we're just trying to get through that. Components that were 25 cents are now $7.25. It's a struggle. But we, did our best to think ahead. And we're doing what we can to get product out. There's been some delays. We apologize for that, but overall, I think we're coming through this in pretty good condition. Considering the component issues, we have people that want to work. We have a great team of people that are jumping in to do what they need to do, outside of their job description whenever needed. So it's been a huge help for us.
Bob Trudnak joining me here on the show. BBQGuru.com is the website, of course. Anything new from a Guru standpoint we should be keeping our eye peeled for in Q4?
Not really. I mean, we're just trying to keep the product that we have on the shelf, get it out to customers, and then we'll focus 2022 on some new and exciting things.
Bob, one of my favorite non-barbecue foods, which has never actually been more popular when it comes to grills right now, is pizza. I love any and all kinds of pizza. You can put pineapple on my pizza. The only thing I don't really want on my pizza is onions. I've never been an onion guy. Not raw onions, not really caramelized onions. I just really hate onions altogether. Outside of that, I'm a big pizza lover. I follow you on social, and I see that you might be quite a pizza fan as well, correct?
Huge pizza fan. It's one of my favorite things to cook beside barbecue is pizza. And I love eating it as well. So I grew up in an Italian family. My grandmother was always making homemade pastas, homemade meatballs, her own, spaghetti sauce, homemade pizza. That was, we never went out for pizza when I was little. But I also came from an area that had a very interesting pizza history. Old Forge, Pennsylvania, which is outside of Scranton. They claim to be the pizza capital of the world, which is
really,
they do. If you watch Barstool Sports and that whole thing, he does a lot of reviews in that area. But we grew up on great pizza regardless, homemade and locally. And it's always been a big part in, for me and my family and for me and my kids and my wife to make homemade pizzas. We do Friday night pizzas. And it's sometimes we make the dough, sometimes we buy it, sometimes we use like naan bread. We'll do a variety of things, but I always like to make my own sauce. I always like to season it, the way I like to season it, find interesting toppings, things like that. And, my mother and my grandmother kind of instilled, the homemade part of things. And it was just so exciting. When I came to, I guess it's been about a year and a half since I've really wanted to come out with a pizza seasoning. And I didn't know anybody else was doing it. I did a little research. There was a couple of things on in the store shelves, but you go into a pizza place and you see the oregano and you see the pepper and the salt and the garlic and the onion powder and the red pepper flake, and you're like, okay, I'll be 10 minutes. My pizza's gonna be cold by the time I put everything on it. So I'm like, how can I incorporate this into one seasoning and then add some of my own flavors, my own herbs, some unique things. To give it all in one shaker. Shake it on, whether you're making the pizza and shaking it on as you're making it, or you're about to take a slice off and you're putting it on as a finishing seasoning. Either way. So I developed a couple recipes. I came up with something I loved. And I'm super excited. We're very close. We're weeks away. And also decided to do the sauce at the same time.
Are you using, because you have a number of other barbecue products out there, are you utilizing contacts that you already have, or do you have to go outside of that comfort zone to find somebody that's more like pizza and pizza sauce oriented?
As far as like co-packer?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm using the same guy. I'm using Sweet Smoke Q. They're out of Lakeland, Florida. They're amazing. I highly recommend them. Jim Elser? Jim Elser.
You got to be kidding me. Run away, Bob.
No, he's fantastic. Now, I wouldn't want the guy next to me at a barbecue contest because that pink drink will get you. But
pink drink will get you. That's right. No doubt.
No, but he's been fantastic. He's a great business to work with. Small batch. He's just been great.
Does he do your sauces too?
He does. He does all my sauces.
I didn't know he was a sauce and a rub guy. Does he do your rubs?
He does.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not.
And he doesn't farm it out?
No, I'm telling you, I had a co-packer. I had a co-packer in New York State. That's how I started with my first sauce, the original sauce, the OG, and my Alpha Rub. And I moved away from them because I didn't care for the quality anymore and some of the business decisions. And, Jim and I were in the Netherlands together with a whole bunch of other people a few years ago. And he was starting this up and he said, let's give it a shot. You'd be my first one. And I was. And let me tell you, he nailed everything. He nailed it. Yeah.
I'm completely baffled. You've completely left me speechless. I didn't know he was. I mean, I know he was into doing drums. He's obviously one of the premier competition cooks across. If you don't know who Jim Elser is, just look at Sweet Smoke Q, see all his accomplishments. He's been on TV a whole bunch, all that stuff. But I didn't know that he had branched off into that arm of the business. So we'll have to have him on to talk about that as well. And
absolutely. Absolutely.
So what is it like putting a recipe together? We've done this a handful of times here on the show and just kind of getting into the ins and outs of this. But for folks that are looking to do sauces or pizza sauces or seasonings of some kind, you have a recipe that you've figured out from home. But to get it to the commercial level is a different game. So you find the co-packer. But what's the relationship like at that point? You send them something, and then what happens?
Yeah. So you develop your recipes, and I probably have 30, 40 recipes waiting. If my wife doesn't kill me first, I'll get them out. But so you have your recipe, you sign a non-disclosure, right, with your co-packer that you choose, and you send your recipe. What you want to do is you want to send you can send weights or measurements or both. It's better to have both, weights and measurements, of each individual seasoning and the brand. And if you're using granulated garlic as opposed to garlic powder, if you're using coarse black pepper as opposed to fine, you want to detail that out. Then you get it to your co-packer. The co-packer will take that. He'll get your ingredients together, and then they'll make you a sample, or they'll make you 2, or they'll make you 3 samples, and they'll vary it just slightly. And then they send you samples back. So now it's your job to decide, okay, is this sample what my original sample was? And you do your taste test, you do it yourself, you involve your friends, your family, whoever, and then you make a decision. Yes, if you have 3 samples, then sample 2 is the one we're going with. Sometimes it takes 1 or 2 tweaks, sometimes it takes 5 tweaks. It's just a matter of getting it right. I've been fortunate enough to 1 or 2 tweaks and we're good. So once that's accomplished, or while that's being accomplished, you want to have your label done. So you need a label company, label designer, and you want to have a vision. You don't want to go in with no vision at all. You want to have some type of vision. You want to have a name. You want to have a brand. Some kind of branding in your mind, and then work with the designer and get that label made. So that by the time that you are on the line and they're making your sauce or your seasoning, that label is being done and it gets shipped to the bottling house so that the label could be put on when they're manufacturing the sauce or seasoning. And then it's just a matter of placing your order and going.
I would assume, as you had kind of mentioned, there are different requirements with different companies as far as let's call them minimums.
Yes. Absolutely. So, some bottling houses are going to say you need a 500 case minimum. And some places are going to say, okay, well, if you have, 5 flavors, we could do a 30 case minimum. Or they're going to say, at 30 cases, this price, at 300 cases, this price. Obviously the higher quantity, the cheaper it is. So I've just found that, you want to work with someone who understands small batch, small business to get started, and then, work your way up. But if your co-packer can handle small and big jobs and they're doing a good job, stay loyal to them and stick with it, because to be able to take your recipes and move to a new co-packer time after time after time, that could be very stressful, and it's hard to get things the way they originally were.
Bob Trudnak breaking down co-packer life right here on the Barbecue Central show, which we appreciate. So I know a lot of people will utilize their live fire cookers to make pizzas we're talking about. They're waiting to get their hands on your sauce and your seasoning that's going to be come out. Technically, this isn't barbecue stuff, right? So is this going to be under having a barbecue brand, or is this going to be something different? How does that look?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And, I thought about this long and hard, and it didn't make sense. I asked a lot of people, when I create things, I ask people who aren't in my immediate circle, who understand what's going on, what do they think? And in talking to some very successful business owners, people in the food industry, people who aren't in my, main circle, what do you think of that? And we came up with the plan to have another brand. We didn't think it was going to make sense for someone to look on a shelf and say pizza sauce by Barbecue Bob, pizza seasoning by Barbecue Bob, down the road, mustard, pickles, whatever I'm going to come up with. So we decided we're going to come out with a second brand. It's going to be Bobby T's Gourmet Foods. The pizza sauce and the seasoning will be under that brand. And there's, if I have it my way, there'll be many, many more products to come out under that label.
Sounds like at least 30 or 40 from what you were saying the recipes in the hopper were. So, I mean,
oh my gosh.
let's peel back some layers here for a second, Bob. I mean, many of us in the industry know the BBQ Guru. We know how that's helped barbecue evolve and promote accessibility for the masses as it relates to fire management. And we know yourself, a very accomplished pit master. You're now headlong into all these different barbecue products, as well as doing a bunch of other business. And lest anyone forget, you all kind of started with that OG and the Alpha Rub back in the day, as you had mentioned. And it gets me thinking that, there is this whole other side of you that you've kind of mentioned a few times through this interview. I mean, you are somebody who has a real passion for just cooking in general. And I don't know if a lot of us on the periphery understand that you can strip the barbecue stuff away and Bob is still going to be a cooking fool. So have you always been a foodie, like straight from little Bobby T all the way up?
Yeah, from little Bobby T, when I couldn't even get on the kitchen chair myself, I had to get picked up by my grandmother. They rolled me up to the counter and they had me rolling meatballs and making pasta and, tasting the sauces and things like that. Grew up in an Italian family on one side. Then on the other side was the kielbasa, the pierogies, the horseradish, all that kind of great stuff. So yeah, I've been, a food guy from the time I was probably 5-6 years old. It was just instilled. And my grandmother lived across the street from the church we all went to, and I had probably 5 or 6 great aunts and uncles in a 1 block radius, and all the cousins would come over to my grandmother's house after church. She stayed home to make this big meal. So yeah, it's been, ever since I was a little kid. And, even before BBQ Guru existed, before I met Shotgun Fred, before I even had kids, and my daughter's just turned 21. I used to, for every Christmas, I would make baskets full of homemade mustards, pepper jams, homemade beer, homemade wine, cordials, you name it. I would just make this stuff. I would label it on, print it out on my, home computer and give everybody a basket full of homemade food.
Single guy doing this?
Well, no, I've been married a long time. So my wife enjoyed it. Yeah. She loved the food I was making. Well, most of it. And, she just let me run with it. And I said, someday I'm going to have my own products, professional products, and we're going to have these on store shelves. And that was before I knew BBQ Guru was ever going to be a thing.
Are you a guy that can go into the grocery store and these are the people that I envy the most, because I can cook, but I need the list and I need to see somebody do it first, and then away I go. And then once that base is down, if I want to start going left or going right, okay. But are you one of these guys that can go in and say, oh, I see this on the shelf, and then you turn around and you go, oh, this would go good with this, and all of a sudden you're concocting stuff just on the fly?
Yeah, one product can inspire, a 3-course meal. And I love cooking over the fire. I love, different genres of food, different nationalities. Like I might be on an Italian kick. I might be on, let's make some Mexican foods, some fire roasted salsas. We're going to pick a theme, and it's just one thing that inspires me. And it might be at 3:00 in the morning, and I have to write it down and put it on my nightstand. Wow. And the next day I'm running to the store and grabbing things, and we're cooking. So yeah, I'm definitely inspired by an idea, an ingredient, a style of cooking, and then I just run with it.
Here's what I've found out this evening, Bob. Shortly, we'll be having pizza sauce and seasoning, which we're looking forward to, of course.
Cheers to that.
But in the offing, there could be a variety of mustards. There could be a variety of my favorite condiment, pickles. Because who doesn't love pickles?
Exactly.
And other things as well. I mean, we haven't seen the end with like the most recent barbecue sauces unveiled and DynaQ and UltraQ and stuff like this. I mean, there is food stuff to come for the foreseeable future.
It's endless.
Wow.
It's endless. And it's always there's so much going on in my head. I have to kind of write it down and categorize it and stop myself from thinking about it.
Wow. Well, it's crazy. You are the creators that keep me eating. That's all I have to say about that. So keep on the lookout. Follow Bob socially, of course. Don't forget to hit up the main website, bbqguru.com. What are the other websites
Yes.
that you have, Bob, that we should be looking at as well?
All right. So my brand new website, bobtrudnakbbq.com. That's me as a brand ambassador. It talks about my classes with Mo Cason. And there's a link. What?
Mo Cason?
Yeah, Mo Cason.
Oh, yeah. We've heard of him. Yep.
Yeah, that guy. Mo and I have been doing the Bob and Mo Barbecue Show this is our third year doing it. We teach classes around the country. That's the Bob and Mo BBQshow.com. They have BobTrudnakBBQ.com, which is my website where you can see all the things that I offer. And havingabarbecue.com is our barbecue catering business. So that's the local one for local parties, luncheons, things like that.
All right, so check out all those websites and make sure that you're following Bob for all the updates. And when the pizza sauce and seasoning drop, make sure that you're picking that up with the quickness because I'm sure it will sell out, undoubtedly. Bob, before I let you go, I want to say that, aside from my wife and my kids, I think we have like the second, third longest running relationship of my life is with you, believe it or not.
It's unbelievable.
2006,
Absolutely.
I think we started as you started sponsoring the Barbecue Central Show podcast 2 years before it even went to a live show. And then since 2008, here we are having done live shows all this way through. And you've been with me every step of the way. And it is a relationship that I value amongst or above all others. And I certainly appreciate almost the blind faith that you had in something called podcasting all the way back in 2006 when nobody else was doing it. So I truly appreciate it and value this business relationship and friendship probably more than I can conveniently say to everybody that's listening.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. If you were here, I'd give you a big old hug, but you're not. So,
well, we'll do that soon, maybe. Why not?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, Bob. Always appreciate the time.
All right. Thank you very much, Greg. Have a great day.
There he is, Bob Trudnak, right there. Pizza sauce and pizza seasoning. Yes. Come on. Who's excited for that? I am. There's nothing more exciting than firing up the pellet cooker, doing pizza night, or, whatever you cook your pizzas on. It doesn't have to be pellet cookers. I'm going to talk to you about a pellet cooker right now, though. That's right. Pits and Spits, also they do offsets. We know them. They were originally offset cookers. They've got into pellet cookers as well recently. They set themselves apart by using only the finest materials. 7 and 10 gauge stainless on every cooker. Roll top lids, 304 stainless roll top lids, by the way. Why does it matter? Well, by using quality materials, they give you smokers that can reach and maintain temperatures, allowing you to worry more about the meat than the heat. By providing a fully welded smoker, you don't have to worry about grease or smoke leaking out of the barrel or about the grill rattling apart as you move it through the backyard. And by using 304 stainless, you're getting an heirloom quality product that you can hand out to the kids if you want, or just take it with you. Where some companies are focusing on low cost, Pits and Spits focuses on craftsmanship and using quality materials. There are definitely cheaper ways to make these, but they don't like the cheap way around. Having in-house manufacturing gives them complete control over the design and standards. Not something you find with products that are brought in from overseas. Their steel suppliers give you materials to be used in some of the harshest environments around, so they're going to perform anywhere. And their controllers are made right here in the States. They have unimpeded transparency into the programming. Pits and Spits sold through a dealer network. If there isn't one near you, call Coy in the shop. Tell them I told you to call 844-650-6250. Whether you're a backyard grill master or a competition team, Pits and Spits is a product for you. You can check them out at pitsandspits.com, all spelled out, or you can see their Pits in the Wild across social media with their handle at Pits and Spits, all spelled out again. Derrick Riches in the green room. He's ready to go. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And this portion being brought to you by CookinPellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets to fire all those pellet-driven cookers, like Pits and Spits or Green Mountain or whoever you like. You can find them at CookinPellets.com or on Amazon as well. Chris Becker and the gang over there giving you great pellets. It is the fourth Tuesday of the month in the first hour, and you know what that means. We race to the hotline and welcome in BBQ Central Show guest Hall of Famer, Derrick Riches. Hey, Derrick.
Hey, Greg.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
You a cigar smoker?
No, I'm not in really a long time, actually.
Are you one of those that would say, I will enjoy the occasional cigar, or not even that?
The occasional, I guess.
You like it, or just don't even think about it?
Yeah, I can't say that I've thought about it in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to be a bit more proactive about it, but I probably just got out of the habit.
I get it. So last month we were talking all about what was a race to get to public from Traeger, a race to get to public from Weber. Traeger may have just launched, or maybe they were days away from launching at that point. And then Weber, who we thought were going to be, or I thought was going to be much later than Traeger, ended up only launching a week later on the beginning of this month, on August 5th. Let's do a little recap. Let's look at Traeger, and then conversely, let's look at Weber. How do you evaluate, as the day of IPO came for Traeger, how do you evaluate everything that they did to build around look what we're doing day?
I think they did a phenomenally good job. I mean, their IPO was, completely successful. Stock launched. They sold the shares they wanted to sell. They sold above the asking price. Of course, the asking price is always a bit of a lowered expectation thing. We're going to go for, hey, let's go for 14 and hope it actually hits 16, or I think it was somewhere in that range. So, that went very well. Stock has been performing well. What was it?
I mean, they opened at 22 that day. Yeah. It topped at 32, and then it's currently at close today, $24.74. So not too bad considering.
Yeah, after hours it popped up to over 25. So yeah, I think it's done really well. I mean, it gives it a Wall Street says the Traeger is worth about $2.9 billion. So, I think they have to be very happy with it. And I had said though, that the Traeger is kind of a sexier stock. There's a lot of people making comparisons between Traeger and Yeti, or some of these kind of stock darlings. So I'm not surprised by the performance. They've done their job really well. So, they're looking strong.
Is a lot of this due to the leader having done a masterful job with Skull Candy? I think you had said last month, had it not been for Beats by Dre, Skull Candy would have been number one in headphones. And then Jeremy gets over into Traeger and maybe uses his expertise to help position Traeger a little bit more expertly than maybe somebody else would have in order to get them to where they're at today.
Well, certainly what Jeremy's done with Traeger is pretty phenomenal.
Sure.
I mean, I'm trying to remember the number. What did Joe Traeger sell it for? $14 million. Sorry.
A lot of millions.
Yeah, it wasn't much. Not compared to $2.9 billion.
No doubt about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, it's got to be rough waking up realizing that the company you founded is worth 2,000 times or, 2,000% what you sold it for.
But I mean, isn't that part of making a deal? Like if you're Joe Traeger and somebody comes to you and says, hey, we're going to give you 10 or 14 or 15 million or whatever that number is. At that point where you decide it's go time, you could never look into the future and say, man, if these guys really take it up and get to 2.9 billion, I'm going to look like a fool for selling it at 14. You make your bed, you sleep in it, and you're happy with the deal, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you kind of have to.
Yeah.
And it's not like it hasn't, it turned around overnight. That was a decade ago.
Yes.
So, or more than. But yeah, I mean, I think that they've got to be really happy with the situation. And, certainly all the, financial writers are all talking it up and, getting their facts horribly wrong about a lot of things. But, for the most part, just kind of, it's got a lot of positive spin on it.
What I took from their launch day was incredible promotion, incredible social media exposure. They were all over television. They somehow got that huge banner above the pulpit or the bell ringing station or whatever the proper financial term is for that, which I don't recall seeing any other company like that getting onto the market have such a big spread behind them. Not to mention the one that was outside on Wall Street as well. Had, I guess, what I would call hand-picked people up standing next to Jeremy. I mean, it was kind of interesting to me who was up there and who wasn't up there. I mean, all really calculated stuff, I think. And then all the way till a couple days after the fact, where they're in Salt Lake City at HQ, they've invited all the influencers and, you know, whoever they thought was important to be up there and partying. And I mean, really did a great job from start to finish on exposing their whole success, I guess. And then, and then you had Weber coming on August 5th, and it was like, that was it. Barely a post, maybe two from Tuffy Stone. Not a lot of promotion, not a lot of anything. And they opened at 1650. They topped at almost 20, and they're back down to 1641. I don't know where they're at after the fact today, but it's pretty much remained where it opened at. So what do you think about Weber?
Well, you know, in actuality, Weber took over Wall Street. They put grills out there. They had cookouts the whole day. Nobody heard about it. I mean, it was covered by a couple of, you know, financial programs and all that sort of stuff. But that kind of shows the difference in the thinking. Traeger was very proactive at getting the Traeger hood active and talking about the stock and making sure that they were sharing everything across all the social media so that there was that buzz going on. Weber, for all of its desire to kind of have that same sort of influencer network, has just never managed to kind of get it together. So yeah, their IPO did not go well. They were going to sell about 50 million shares. They cut it back to 20 million. They cut the price down. So they raised a fraction of what they had hoped for. And it's weird to think that this might be a misstep. They're owned by one of the biggest private equity firms in the world, and they have a legacy that connects them into some of the, Warren Buffett and to, this sort of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, it's also the most recognized brand on the planet. I think it's just a clear indication that this was rushed as fast as they could go. That when they found out that Traeger was going public, they had to be right there. They got the lawyers out there, they got them filing paperwork, they got everything going, and they wanted to try. And I think what they'd hoped for was to beat Traeger to the punch. And they ended up playing second fiddle. And, their IPO happens a week after Traeger's. And, if you're doing a comparison on the first day performance and, on how that IPO went, Weber looks just sad.
Yeah. If you're not first, you're last.
Yeah. And this is like seriously last.
Yeah.
This isn't saying it's last in a two-legged race, two-man race. This is just down there. And it's kind of weird for, a company like Weber who has such global influence.
So the more you're talking about this, I can't help but think that this comparison just ran through my mind. You have, as you said, what looks like Weber trying to race to get to what. There's really no if they want to do it, there's no race. No. Only to get to be Traeger, I guess. But other than that, I mean, they're bigger. They have more name recognition, all this great stuff as you had just mentioned. So there's no reason for them to race. Why not take your time, do it right, get some experts around you to help generate more buzz, blah, blah, blah. Isn't this comparable to them waiting and waiting to get into the pellet cooker game and then produce that nightmare of smoke fire that came out where people were like, it just seems like Meathead has said time and time again, this product was rushed to market. It wasn't ready to come out of the box and be functional and reliable, and it's not what they build it to be through the months in advance of hyping it up. And I'm like, for as long as they took to get in, why race at this point? Make it a dead bang, stone cold, lead pipe lock, best pellet cooker / grill that it can be. And now, as you look at it in IPO, this almost feels like the smoke fire of IPOs.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it's almost to the point of just making smoke fire a verb. This is a company. You remember the Weber Q, their portable grill?
Yes,
was 5 years in development before it ever hit market. And we know that they were talking about pellet grills, but smoke fire came off as we put this together over the weekend and hoped it would work. And now they've launched an IPO that came in, that sold 2/5 of the stock they intended to sell, generated a fraction of the revenue they wanted. And they literally just said, hey, Traeger, you're awesome. Everyone should invest in you. That's literally what they did. This is not, Weber has always been a weird company. They've always been very secretive. They've always been very slow to move on things. And that it's like they tried to shift gears in the 11th hour to become something they never were. And, I do think that they wanted, both these companies are riding the COVID bump. They're riding this huge explosion in sales that has happened because of the world, and they needed desperately to get out there before they had to start reporting earnings that stopped looking so good, before the COVID bust sets in. But yeah, Weber could have waited another month. They could have set it back a little bit. I think they just felt like the window was closing and they had to get out there, do everything they possibly could. Of course they're jumping up and down saying, hey, we did a great job, but we had to put through a year of what a great and incredible product smoke fire was and how it was virtually infallible from certain people. Before, Gen 2 was released, which solved some of the problems.
Do you have a Gen 2 that you're playing around with?
I've played with a Gen 2. I didn't want to waste space for possessing one. I have access to one, and I don't know. I think the fundamentally
marginally better.
Well, it solves the most obvious problems, but it doesn't solve the main problem, and that is that they wanted to take their gas grill technology and turn it into a pellet grill. They should have known these are two completely different beasts. Gas grills and pellet grills are just not the same. They're not comparable in any way, and you can't treat them the same. But, we want flavorizer bars because we have a trademark on that name. And it's like, this is what happens when a company becomes so obsessed with its brand that they lose sight of what their product is. And, I hate to admit it. I've known Weber people for 20 some odd years. And I'm now finding myself, it's like, oh, you're looking for a mid-priced gas grill. Have you thought of Napoleon? Because you probably don't necessarily want a Genesis. It just doesn't have what they used to. It's not what it was. Weber is not the company it was.
Derrick Riches joining me here on the show. DerrickRiches.com is his website. So I'm going to hold the other topic off until next month, which is if you're going to get into business through the internet, how Google and or Amazon or both of them could screw you in a moment's notice, and how you could guard against that. Or I think that's
they will.
Yeah, and that I think that's going to be a pretty interesting topic because I'm learning more and more about it here over the last handful of days from some pretty high up folks. Regaling me with their stories and dealings with them and what it's like to be on that side of it. But let me ask you one quick question before we go. Are you familiar with a product called Grill Eye?
Yeah, I watched they did kind of an intro webcast sort of thing on it, and I watched it, and I'm not impressed.
Can you relate it to something? Is it like a Fireboard, or is it like something like that?
It's like a Fireboard Lite. And we've talked about this before, they are using the dual channel wireless temperature probes, which apparently you can get a Chinese factory to just make for you, even though that patent is now firmly under the Traeger brand. It's at no point in the process of this being introduced have the people behind it seem to know what they're talking about or what they're doing. I think that there's some ideas in there and they feel like they can jump in there and capitalize on it. But I mean, the competition is huge in this space, and there's really fascinating technology. I mean, the Fireboard people, and I mean, they're obsessive. They're, crazy techno nerds who try to figure out how to do all sorts of insane things. Yeah. And so, yeah,
we're passing on that.
I'm passing on. I don't think it's going to get anywhere.
Fair enough. I can tell you who's going to get somewhere. That's going to be Derrick Riches right here next month, of course, because he's our monthly correspondent here, the fourth Tuesday of the month in the first hour. Anything else you're working on that we're going to be covering next month, potentially? Any hot stories? Breaking news?
Nothing's breaking yet. I've been kind of suspecting that some stuff was going to break, but it hasn't happened yet, so we'll just have to hold off.
All right. Well, be sure to tune in next month. You'll be find Derrick joining me at the end of September, and we'll see what's happening then. And we will talk about Amazon and Google business and how that may or may not affect your back pockets very quickly. Derrick, always appreciate the time, my friend.
Sure thing. Talk to you in a month.
All right. There he is, Derrick Riches right there. DerrickRiches.com is his website, and if you're not checking there frequently, you're missing out on great stories, yes. And if you've never visited there before, get there quickly and see all the other stuff that he has written stories on, pieces on. It's great. Doug Scheiding writing it. David Ramsey commented on Traeger versus Weber this weekend. I love Dave Ramsey. He's great. Debt Snowball. Baby steps. There's other things that he talks about that I can't remember off the top of my head, but I apply the Debt Snowball thing. That was a big help to me. Let's talk about Green Mountain Grills, some of the best pellet cookers out there on the market today. Two different lines to choose from, a choice line and a prime line. Choice line, save you some money. It doesn't have a lot of the bells and whistles, but it's a great cooker. It's a Daniel Boone size, and that's the name of it as well. Now, if you want to spend a couple extra $100, you want to get some lights inside of it, you want to get peek-in windows, you want internal meat probes, you want Wi-Fi connectivity, you want to be able to control the temperature on an app, then you want to get the Prime. A couple different sizes to choose from there. You have a Peak, which is the big one, and then the Ledge, which is the middle. The Davy Crockett, used to be Davy Crockett, is now the Trek. That's a portable one. All 12-volt technology, so if you have a 12-volt outlet somewhere in your house, in your car, motorcycle, inverter, whatever, you can hook it up to that, and you're powered, and away you go with wood-fired goodness and flavor. Green Mountain Grills are also sold through a dealer network, so go to the website, find a dealer near you, visit the dealer, get educated, look at all the different models that they have to choose from, pick the one that is right and best for you, and then take it home knowing that you're armed with all the great information to be successful right from the first cook. If you get the big one or the middle one, get the pizza oven insert so you can have great pizza. You can buy Barbecue Bob Trudnak's pizza sauce and seasoning when it comes out here in a few weeks. You can have a pizza party. They have one every Friday, he said, at his home in Pennsylvania. So why not start that tradition at your home with Barbecue Bob's pizza seasoning and sauce, and then you can also use the pizza oven insert on the Green Mountain Grill and have pizza party every week. Why not? Fun and exciting. Go to greenmountaingrill.com. They have rubs and sauces and pellets and other accessories to complete the Green Mountain Grill experience. That's greenmountaingrills.com, greenmountaingrills.com. We're back to wrap the first hour right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion being brought to you by Fireboard, the aforementioned Fireboard. The segment is brought to you by them. Fireboard 2, Fireboard 2 Drive, Fireboard 2 Pro. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring or connect via Bluetooth. If you have Alexa or the Google Assistant in your home, you're in luck. Fireboard, fully integrated with both. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. As Derek said, people at Fireboard are meticulous. And I'm here to continue to preach this. If they haven't come up with a wireless probe yet, that's me sniffing. It doesn't pass the smell test on anything else. When they come out with wireless probe tech, if they come out with that, I'll be interested at that point. All right, we're pointing to the second hour. Refresh your libations. Stick around. We'll be right back.